Welcome, chemistry students. It's me, Mr. Cheney, with another brilliant tutorial. This one has to do with dissolution rate, and it's an interactivity in the textbook. No slide decks for this. You're doing all the work in the textbook lab. And so let's get started. This is going to be an activity that follows textbook information that we'll do in class. So here's the lab. There's 8 screens to go through, and much like the other labs we've done, there will be some data to put into some tables and observations that you'll make notes of. So here's what we've got for dissolution rate. Potassium iodide, or Ki, which is the chemical formula, is given to people accidentally exposed to radiation to reduce their risk of thyroid cancer. A pharmacist would like to determine the fastest way to dissolve the compound in water in case of an emergency. Select each object to learn about the variables the pharmacist will test. So you'll go through and we'll read about each piece of equipment. And so potassium iodide powder, 175 grams of it, will be dissolved in 2 beakers, each with 100 milliliters of room temperature water. One beaker will sit undisturbed. The other will be stirred on a magnetic stir plate. Do you think the powder will dissolve faster when stirred or not stirred? And we go over to this side here. Potassium iodide powder, again 175 grams, will be dissolved in 100 milligrams of water room temperature, which is 20 degrees Celsius, and 100 milligrams of water heated to 90 degrees Celsius on a hot plate. Do you think the powder will dissolve faster at 20 degrees Celsius or 90 degrees Celsius? And then last informational dot right here. Potassium iodide, 175 grams, will be dissolved in 100 milliliters of room temperature water. In one beaker, the Ki will be in pill form. In the other, it will be in powder form. The powder form has a smaller particle size and therefore more surface area touching the water. In which beaker do you think the Ki will dissolve first? Okay, so that's our information on what we're going to be doing. So we have a stirrer, we have a hot plate, and we have pill form and powder form of our potassium iodide. Moving on to screen 2. So now our instructions are: move the variables to the beakers labeled increase and decrease to show what you predict will increase and decrease the dissolution rate. So if you think that powder form and pill form, so those are the 2 variables, so you're going to put either increase or decrease. So you'll keep it in one of these, and so you'll separate those. So you've got powder versus pill, you've got stirring versus not stirring, and you've got heating versus no heating. So you're going to put those where you think they belong. And in screen 3, select each variable to investigate the effects of heat, stirring, and surface area on dissolution rate. So we'll click on heating. 175 grams of powdered potassium iodide is added to each beaker of 100 milliliters of water. One beaker is at 20 degrees Celsius, the other is warmed on a hot plate to 90 degrees Celsius. Select each timer to observe how much solute has dissolved at 0 minutes, 1 minute, and 10 minutes, and then you record your data. So we'll click on the clock. It's going to show you how much of the iodized solution is actually broken free. So observe the amount of potassium iodide that is dissolved in the water and how much of the solid remains at the bottom of the beaker. So this is all water molecules, this is all water molecules, and this shows the iodized potassium iodide. So that's at 0, so you're going to make your observations. So you would go to record data, and at 0 minutes right here, what do you observe as far as how much material is still in the container? So then we go back to the lab, we click on 1 minute, and now we see the 20 degree water with potassium iodide. You've got some ions that have released, and then here on the hot plate with the 90 degree, you've got more ions that have been released. Okay? So you go back, record your data for 1 minute, 20 degrees Celsius versus 90 degree. Your notes have to do with how many particles have been released and possibly dissolved in the water based on heat. And then we'll go 10 minutes and look at our information as well. And then we go test a new variable. So that's the variable of heat. And then we go to the magnetic stirrer. And so in this one, we're mixing. So 175 grams of powdered potassium iodide is added to each beaker of 100 milliliters of water. One beaker will be stirred continuously on a stir plate. The other will not be stirred. So select each timer to observe how much solute has dissolved at 0 minutes, 1 minute, and 10 minutes, and record your data. So once again, you'll click on the clocks, see how much of that material has actually dissolved in the solution. You'll go to the 1 minute, you'll go to the 10 minute, same thing. You'll record your data for agitation, which is the stirring versus non-stir. So no stir versus stir at 0 minutes, 1 minute, and 10 minutes. So that's where your notes will go there. And then we go on to screen 4. Actually, screen 4 we already knew about, so returning to the lab, recording the data, test new variable. And then we've got surface area. So surface area, 175 grams of potassium iodide is added to each beaker of 100 milliliters of water. In one beaker, the potassium iodide will be in powdered form. In the other beaker, the potassium iodide will be in pill form. Select each timer to observe how much solute has dissolved at 0 minutes, 1 minute, and 10 minutes, and record your data. So, same thing. Click the clock, see how much of it has been released or dissolved in the water. You've got powder form versus pill form. Go record your data. You got 1 minute, and then you've got 10 minutes. Our variable is actually just particle size for this one, so it's powder versus pill at 0 minutes, 1 minute, and 10 minutes. And then that's the 3 variables. So that's data for the heat variable, data for the agitation or stirring variable, and data for the particle size, powder versus pill. And then you just got some questions to answer at the end. So question 1, based on the information that you've observed in those labs that you did, what methods could the pharmacist use to increase the rate that the potassium iodide dissolves in the water? So which method was the best to get it dissolved the fastest, basically, and explain what you observed. Secondly, if the pharmacist wanted to increase the amount of potassium iodide that could be dissolved in the water, what method should he or she use? So use evidence to explain your answer. And then lastly, what you'll do is answer the multiple choice question, and that's it. You will hit, I think you'll have like a turn in button up here, a blue turn in button, and you will turn in that lab. If you have questions, I will help you in class for clarity. I'll see you back in class.